One of the arguments that I've heard a lot recently in regard to Trump's anti-democratic actions and denial of the election is, hey, Hillary Clinton and some liberals said that Trump was an illegitimate president, so everyone's done it. It's not that big of a deal. So we're going to get into it. And I have kind of a way to lay out for you. Here's what people said. Here's someone apologizing for what they said. Here's Hillary Clinton now. And kind of how do we process through this? And then why is it different than what Trump is doing now? I have to say, even though I like doing things in that kind of story order, I got to spoil the end of the story for you because I can't even let it sit in your head for a moment. It's not the same. It's not even close to the same. Not in the same world whatsoever. The only similarity is that both individuals started out their kind of processes by saying this other person is not legitimate. And then everything after is worlds of difference. Okay? The liberals were emotionally reacting to Trump, someone they really didn't like, getting in power, and they said things that I don't think are appropriate. Trump tried to overturn an election. Very different. Okay. But first, let's kind of give you the context of where this is coming from. So this is from a while back, Hillary Clinton on the show The View saying that Trump's an illegitimate president.
Well, I think three things. First, I do think that he knows that he's an illegitimate president.
Okay, and again, just hold for my response to these moments. Here is Fox News recently calling out some past comments that the press secretary of the Biden administration made when she was on MSNBC. She tweeted this out.
Up in the interview, perhaps, came and protested President Trump in 2016, tweeting this out. Stolen email, stolen drone, stolen election. Welcome to the world of hashtag unprecedented Trump.
Okay, and then here is a host from The View again, apologizing for statements she made about Trump to a similar effect.
I don't like whataboutism. I never have. You did this, so I'm going to do this. Or remember when you did that. But I will say that when Trump became president, I think people were so very shocked, even considering the Electoral College and that sort of thing. The assumption was, at least mine, I'll speak for myself, that Russia must have been involved because we knew from the Mueller report that Russia had some involvement. Russia thought that it could benefit from a Trump presidency, which it did, by the way. But I remember calling him an illegitimate president, and that was wrong. I should not have said that because he was not an illegitimate president. But that was how you...
Okay, so what is kind of my response before we talk about how it compares to what Trump has done to just that by itself? Well, I very much dislike it. If I had a show back then, I absolutely would have denounced those types of comments. I remember my personal life hearing stuff like that and not really vibing with it. I think calling him an illegitimate president is just wrong. He's a very legitimately horrible president. And that's just a more correct way to voice your, distaste of him. But I think it's dangerous, and we understand now the extent to the danger to really cast down elections unless you have really good, solid reason to, or evidence behind what you're saying. So being upset that Trump got elected, or feeling like it's weird that Hillary Clinton could get 3 million more votes in the popular vote and lose the Electoral College. Why do we have that system? I wish we didn't have that system, but we do. And so within the system we have, Trump was elected legitimately. And it's important that we are very clear. Now, to defend them, that was within the context of a moment where nobody would try to use these types of claims to overturn the election results. No. Obama was the president at the time. And so he, if he had wanted to, could have tried to do what Trump did and somehow keep Trump out of power, right? Overturn the election results. But no, he brought Trump up to the White House, President-elect Trump, walked him around, welcomed him. Here's kind of the place you're going to be. Very much made it clear he felt Trump was the legitimate president. Hillary Clinton came out the day after the election, conceded to Trump, said we need to, recognize him as the elected president of the United States. So there was no effort to overturn the election results. And that's why those claims hold so much less weight. I still don't like them. They're still wrong. We have to be very clear and concise with our language, especially now we understand how dangerous it can be if people take it too far. But it's worlds of difference. And Hillary Clinton kind of highlighted this in a recent interview where she's talking about Trump's recent actions and makes a point that connects to this, as you'll see.
What's your takeaway about the January 6th committee and Donald Trump's actions?
I would not be honest if I didn't say I think there was a seditious conspiracy against the government of the United States, and that's a crime.
Led by Donald Trump.
Led by Donald Trump, encouraged by Donald Trump. I was the Secretary of State. I spent many days on airplanes flying from place to place, encouraging people to have a real democracy. And one of the hallmarks of a real democracy is the peaceful transfer of power. Was I happy when I beat Donald Trump by nearly 3 million votes but lost the Electoral College? No, I was not happy. Did I even for a nanosecond think I'm going to claim victory and try to get the Democrats to refuse to certify the election? No.
And there it is. That is the core difference. And I have to say this again because it's true and I don't want you guys to mishear me. This is not to say that I'm endorsing the statements they made. Honestly, if I had a show back then, I would have spoken out against those comments and said, let's fight back against Trump. Let's see how Russia tried to influence our brains, not our voting systems. Our voting systems work great. They were just trying to spread misinformation, which is important to look into, but it's not at all the same as saying that voting doesn't work the way that it should in the United States. But I still would have spoken out against the claims of Trump's illegitimate and all those things. But Hillary Clinton never once claimed that she should be, appointed president. Barack Obama, I actually won. I got 3 million more votes than the popular vote. This was illegitimate. Put me in power. No, not at all. There was no effort at all to do something like that. Whereas Trump and the entire movement behind him genuinely believes to this day that he should be appointed president somehow, as he's saying on social media. And he attempted while he was in power, as we saw, to unlawfully stay in power, to not have the certification go through, to pressure state legislatures to do different things and have an alternate slate of electors, and all of these different attempts he made to keep himself in power as president, even though he lost the election. That is worlds of difference than making some granted inappropriate comments about the current president of the United States. So if that's not clear to you, right, left, or center, I don't know how I could explain it any differently. But there's me honestly addressing that argument that I've heard a lot recently.